Welcome to another segment of Letter to Louie with Abbey, Algiers. Hello.
Hi, Sally.
We are recording this next segment in the month of May, and it's kind of very close to Memorial Day. And the piece that you've chosen to read that your father wrote really involves some of the aspects of the generation of World War II and the friendships that culminated from that shared sense of the war, but also the business senses that each of them were involved in. And it really is a great piece to read. And when we're done, we'll come back and talk about it.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
Inflation, deflation, stagnation, and coffee for $2.25. Dear Louie, over the past 4 years, a group of young men in old body frames have met 4 to 5 mornings each week for coffee, tea, and conversation. Each morning is a free association conversation with a wide variety of themes. Ample swings of emotions and examples of tolerance, learning, and what at time passes for wisdom, but if the truth be recognized, all are examples of partial thought recall and often staggering memory loss and confabulatory substitution. During the years, the location of the confab has changed. Faces of the participants have changed by addition and subtraction, but the nucleus has remained present and surprisingly friendly. From 4 to 8 older men of the community have met, attempted to flirt with young, pleasant waitresses who are pleasant, but most of all tolerant of the idiosyncrasies of the aging group and of the feeble attempts of flirtatious nature, ill in timing but obvious in intent. All are aware of the attempts to recapture the moments of the past, and all recognize the pleasures of the present. All depart each morning buoyed up in spirit and a bit more able to meet the day, and whatever the day may bring. The participants are retired men of the community, men in their 80s and a few in their 90s, all wondering just where has it gone, and why the problems of the present have the ring of the past. The spectrum of vocations of these guys of the past represent the professions, the doers of industry, agents of government, tradesmen of commerce, and financiers of the community. Industry is represented by a knowledgeable executive of large industry. An executive who's risen from the ranks from an initial job of being a telegrapher on the railroad in charge of the nighttime freight station in western Wisconsin, then having a few jobs in mid-Wisconsin, and finally a major position within a corporation. Over the past year, a soulmate loss was lost and documented. The senior member of the group became a widower, and to date, the transition has been difficult. His stories, vivid in details of the past, of the World War II time spent in a prison war camp in northern Germany, repetitiously entertained us when the spirit moved him to recall. Recently, he has been reticent to recall events, but most await him to, some morning, recall the events again. However, none of the stories tells of the past year when he again was captured and imprisoned. This event was a year long, during which time he was literally incarcerated in his home for caring of his wife, daily, week after week, as she battled her diseases. He never failed her during her long battle. Now he is engaged in another form of captivity as he ages, becomes frail, and suffers from a form of captivity, a form within Parkinson's, a shuffle aided by a cane, a shuffle with a hesitant, wide-based gait, and a shuffle which might, with each stride, end in a fall, a fracture, an injury involving another incarceration and final release. These are the observations of the day. These observations prompt noisy word exchanges, noisy arguments as only old men argue, accusatory, many topics, word substitution, loss of words and thoughts, but eventual finding of constructive ideas for more arguments. The strange outcome of word searching is that often finding expression of thought produces more thoughts, and finally the neurons adjust and the discussions become animated and provocative. The most provocative member is also a widower, a retired dentist who has trained for monologues over the years as he monotonously entertained his patients with stories, with unanswered questions, and finally dismissed them with a bill, always reasonable but adequate for the times. A most honest man, a most provocative man, and now a man searching for descriptors and adjectives, as we all do. Over the past 2 years, a time when most of the gentlemen had various and sundry health problems, one member had a most serious health event. However, he was able to profit from modern surgical methods with a successful surgery. Our group is privileged to have 2 gentlemen of the cloth, a retired Methodist minister and a Carmelite priest. They too are golfers, but have never been of the caliber of the auto dealer. However, their mere presence has toned down the infrequent vociferous responses to debates of consequence which do occur. The job is now easier when dealing with the members of our group, as virtue is more easily practiced from the ages of 75 to 90. The Methodist minister continues to visit the sick at the hospital, and the Carmelite priest continues to hear confessions at Holy Hill. Never do they break the seal of confession. The righteous and others are safe with our friends. Virtue is sacred to all of them in all respects but one. They are not above a lift in the rough on the links or acceptance of a 3-foot putt. Never a question. A true gentleman is the retired postman of the group, and his liberal leanings are exposed by the conservative dentist, exposed sometimes with ridicule, but not rancor. Virtue is tried, but never does the postman respond in like manner. The party is defended, but on occasion the liberal leanings are strained, and we all believe that someday, somehow, he will recognize the value of tax reduction and the value of a balanced national budget. The recent trials of patience in Wisconsin politics has on occasion strained the atmosphere of the coffee, but to date, although the debates have had a bit of rancor, all leave smiling and hopeful that tomorrow will bring a better political atmosphere. All hope, almost none believe that equanimity will be seen in the near future. Occasionally, His Honor, the banker, graces our assembly. With his sonorous voice, he dominates the conversation, especially in debate over the proper time to tap the springtime maples. The debate still rages, and the old-timers maintain the wisdom of repetitive mistakes and lessons learned. And what of me? I remain the slow-thinking retired physician who so longs for paying consults instead of the present mode of payment, ongoing friendship and friends. Yeah, Louie, such is life. Keep the faith, my friend. Jim.
Your father had quite the group of friends there.
Yes,
all
he sure
different
did.
Walks of life and professions and skills, and able to come together and share that experiences with each other, whether it was on the golf course or whether it was at their coffee.
Yeah.
For 2 1/4.
Exactly. And I think it was friendships that evolved over the years. You know, that same core group that he kind of traveled with and did business with and saw throughout the community kind of ended up at coffee, in their last years, which was kind of cool.
Very cool. And the fact that he could write letters to Louie about his friendships and his relationships and the communication that they had, I think that really was a wonderful thing to share and have down on paper.
And Louie would know those people, or
right.
Some of them.
Right.
That was the other cool part, is that these were known people to Louie.
And I think that as the aging process happens and their relationships change because of medical problems, there had to be an almost feeling of watching their friends go through some of this as if, well, when's it my turn?
Right, yes.
And they have those friendships. But I think it's great that they were so forthcoming as well in sharing information.
Right, and they would argue and they would express their opinions, but they were friends in the end.
So there's a great event coming up called the
Yes.
Gold Bug Classic. Let's talk about that a little bit before we close, and then we will close.
Sure. Yes, it's the 34th annual Algiers Gold Bug Golf Classic. It's always the second Tuesday in July, so it'll be July 9th. And registration is open, and if a single person, a twosome, foursome want to register by June 1st, it's $110 a person, and then it goes up to $120 after June 1st. So if you register early, get a little bit of a deal.
Okay. And the registration information would be?
You can find it on the Medical Center Foundation's website.
Okay. And that's MCF?
I think it's I should know this.
That's
The
okay.
Medical Center Foundation of Hartford. If you Google that, you
Okay.
will find their website. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To our viewers, as always, thank you for watching.